evening, everyone. What an amazing collection of people. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. I see familiar faces and faces I don't yet know, so thank you for showing up. And I do want to acknowledge it because this, to me, it's already a successful night because I know how hard it is to make time and prioritize being somewhere. And every single person in this room, we all care about our community deeply and our public schools deeply. So let's just revel in that because it's hard to make your schedule clear. And you can even turn to the person next to you and say, hey, nice to see you, glad you made it.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So we are in a beautiful, really renovated building, Louise Archer Elementary School. I want to thank our gracious host, Ms. Condra, our assistant principal here, and who's standing outside welcoming guests. And this school is so special because it's named after Louise Archer, who was an educator that really, her name is, I see growing more and more when we talk about civil rights, because she was the first teacher and principal of the Vienna Colored School, and Vienna Colored School, and she would help kids learn in times of segregation, and that was not that long ago. So we are in a place where there are these legacies and traditions that we are working to undo, but I'll talk more about facilities and why this building took so long to get renovated and why I think every single school should be as beautiful as this for students and staff and the public. I want to acknowledge some other principals. We have Dr. Maggie Grove, who's also outside with Ms. Condra, the Wolf Trap principal. We have our principal over here, Ms. Hope, I'm getting nervous. Ms. Hope of Cunningham Park Elementary. We have SCPS leadership, including Candace Hunstadt, who does amazing things with data, which we'll see in a little bit, Ms. Hunstadt. And we might have some other leadership team members as well. SCPTA president's here. I saw Jennifer. I know you're like the forever, Jennifer LaFollette, the forever PTA president. Are you the PTA president? I don't know. No. Calvin of Terracet Elementary, Courtney Kissel. I think we had Christina from Westbriar, and I'm not sure if I'm missing any other PTA board members, presidents. We got HOA, I know you are, Jen. Yeah, okay. You're with the yes. Yes, great, well, thank you. And that's what PTAs and PTOs are about, showing up and advocating. So we might have some other guests later, but let me just share about what we're gonna do tonight. And so, you know, I envisioned this community summit after this past spring when many of you know our budget, it was quite a situation and we were underfunded in the school system by $121 million, which is the most ever that the superintendent's request has not been met. And that got a lot of interest. And so I held a meeting right here in April and it went really well and people want more, so I'm gonna give people what they want. So here's the community engagements of it. So we're gonna talk about tonight who makes decisions about funding, how you can get involved and have a discussion and some questions. However, we all know that there's some other hot topics happening these days, right? Right? So like what any topics you guys want to talk about? So boundaries, right? Boundaries, we also purchased a brand new high school, the first in decades. So I do want to recognize that moment. I'm going to speak real briefly to just an update on where things are at and what I'm hearing. I am going to have another set of meetings to talk about some of the specific things that I am hearing from the community about the boundaries, but I really do want to use this time tonight to try and focus on the bigger picture because that's actually going to inform all of your advocacy, whether it's for boundaries and every year forward. So. Just leave this here while I speak to what I'm hearing from the boundary work, okay? So, I shared this in my newsletter. I'm hearing two themes. One theme is the concern about phasing. It used to be called grandfathering. And so you may know I helped lead the board to adopt the policy that would allow students to not have to leave their schools if they're in high school already, because I do not agree that once the student is in high school, they should be forced to change, and also middle school. But what is not set yet, or at all, is if you have a student in 8th grade, if they're assigned to a 9th grade, must they go? And I know some of you have 8th graders, right? So you're wondering, is my kid going to be boundaried in? I do not agree that, I do not think that that should be mandatory in this phase. We are doing a big change right now, and a lot of us are under a tremendous amount of stress with the local economy and our jobs, and I just don't think we should upend people's lives on a few months' notice. That is still to be determined by the board. So your advocacy to the rest of the board, because I'm only one of 11, will be crucial in that time period. I also want to extend phasing to allow families, like I have a friend who's 2 Wolf Trap kids, a Kilmer, a Marshall High. Well, the Kilmer kid would go to Madison, but she's got this Marshall kid, right? And, oh, you know how we have our resources and we're, team for our high school. Well, we're all going, she's going in that direction. I want to give her family an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm gonna let my middle schooler go on with their sibling. Again, for this phase, I don't want to do the whole boundary, all the boundary changes at once. I think some people on the board do want to do a lot of it as quickly as possible. And so I'm gonna advocate to do some measured things that are not too much for everyone. So that's where that stands for me. The second theme I'm hearing is, of course, feedback about certain parts of scenario 4. So I am going to have conversations that focus on that northeastern part of Vienna, the town, and also just the geography of Vienna. That's one of my hotspots. The Crossfields, Fox Mill, Carson, Westfield, Oakton, South Lakes, that part of the county, it's already split feeders, so it is complicated. So I'm going to have a conversation about that. And I know some people are concerned about Flint Hill, Oakton, elementary switches. So that's what I'm hearing because of your advocacy. So please stay tuned. And at the end of this evening, I'll have a time for question and answers, hopefully about the focus program of the evening, but certainly I can speak to that. But the board schedule, look, I try and keep it updated. It's 12 different elected officials and things don't always go as coordinated as I would like. But we are having a meeting on November 12th. It's a public work session where we'll talk about all of the proposed boundary changes, as well as budget and legislative program, which is something that I'm the lead on. Then the next day, the 13th, we're gonna vote on subcomponents of Western High School and whether it's gonna be like a magnet or have more of a traditional boundary. And I support the latter, and I think most of us do, and that's what the superintendent is recommending. But there's still clarity to be had about what exactly would be offered in the fall. My understanding is no one's gonna be required to go there, but people can certainly opt to go there. So I tried to articulate that in my newsletter. Some of my vernacular perhaps wasn't exact, but that's how it's going. So, I'm gonna drink a drink of water, and then we'll regroup. I also want to introduce some special guests. So just one moment, please. Okay. I also want to welcome some special guests, as I said. So we have some FCPS leadership, Dr. Giovanni Ponce. He's our chief of schools. So I always wonder what your inbox is like, Dr. Ponce, because he keeps tabs on all the schools, all 200 schools, although he's got his regional assistant superintendents, like Dr. Jill Choice, who is here, who is fairly new to our community and doing amazing things. So that is wonderful to have them there. And I also have Mr. Walter Alcorn, who is my counterpart on the Board of Supervisors. And so I appreciate it, and I see your staff member, Paul Davis, back there. And so, Mr. Alcorn, happy to have you share some comments in a little bit, or I'll let you know. We're gonna fold it all together. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so we talked to the agenda. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Simon Sinek, Where's Your Why? It really resonates with me. Why are you here? Why did you show up? I'll speak to my why in a little bit, but I thought it would be nice to hear from others about what their why is. And I don't know if did Winston arrive yet? Jacob, you see him? No, that's odd. Okay, well, gosh, we're gonna start with our student then. Are you ready to just go for it, Maya? So I'd like to welcome Ms. Maya Daniels, and her classmate Lucy as well. Ooh, actually, Lucy, we have extra space. So they're South Lakes High School students who have been real leaders and advocates and have been showing up. So I said, hey, would you like to please come and share what's your why? Let's hear from a student. What's your why?
Hello, my name's Maya. I'm a senior at South Lakes. And personally, I care a lot about activism and engagement. I'm the co-president of the Young Democrats Club at our school and of the Speech and Debate Club at our school. I have done some phone banking for the Democratic Party. I attend a lot of protests when I can, and I attend things like this. And I'm just going to say a few things that Ms. Meren said about why I do all that stuff. So in the history class that I'm taking this year, our main focus is on democracy. We had a discussion at the beginning of the year about the pros and cons of democracy and authoritarianism, and why sometimes they turn into each other, something like that, relevant now. And we read an article for this discussion, which had many points that were actually anti-democracy, more pro-authoritarianism, such as that democracy is slow, it's hard to come to an agreement, voters are sometimes uneducated or uninvolved, there's a lot of partisanism, anyway, could go on, it kind of doesn't end. But the one thing that was irrefutable was that democracy is the only system where people have the power to make decisions rather than just the government, like in authoritarianism or something like that. And that sounds pretty basic because obviously there's choice in democracy, but that is what inspires me personally to stay engaged, because I love democracy and I love the ability to make change directly, make the things that I want to happen, and that's why I think community engagement is crucial. So as a student, the way that I choose to act is that I try to implement my voice through the ways that are available to me at school, because that's where I spend most of my day. I take leadership roles in clubs, I help show around new students, I've held a walkout in middle school, and I've tried to hold more since. And I think that similar strategies and ways to get involved are available and accessible for adults as well. And that's easiest to do in the community that you're a part of directly, whether that be a neighborhood, family, anything, pretty much. One of the great things about democracy here in America is that it's incredibly easy to get involved, especially on a local level. And I find that showing up to events and participating in anything else I can is the best way to be involved. This is doable for anybody and the best way to make a difference. And I think if everybody showed up for their local communities, I think pretty much all of the problems we have would be solved. So in the end, pretty much what I'm trying to say with all this is that I think being engaged is incredibly important. And I wanted to thank all of you guys for being engaged and being here. That's it.
Thank you, Maya. And here's Winston Tracy. We're just sharing,
Hey, everyone. Hopefully I know some faces. I'm not going to try to say, oh, hey. There we go. One friendly face. So if I get nervous, I'm just going to look that way. What is my why? Well, that's easy because they're here. I'm passionate about our school system. I'm passionate about what it is that we are trying to do. I'm passionate about these two lovely angels who are typically angels. And today they were angels on the way here. So that is my why. On top of that, I am very passionate about what community means, what diversity means, what inclusion means. I'm passionate about the idea that every student in this program has a chance to succeed. And I think that our program has already set ourselves up to do that. But in order to continue to do that, we need to continue the work that we're already doing. So having everyone out here being a part of this engagement is that step, right? So with the work that Melanie is doing and her team is doing, that enables us to be successful moving forward. For those who don't know me, I am a proud father of Wolf Trap elementary school students. I love it there. So shout out to everyone from Wolf Trap. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this, and that is my why. And then I'm going to find a seat somewhere.
Okay. And I got listened when I put out a call to appoint someone to committees that I have the ability to appoint to, and someone referred him, and he was just like, yeah, I'm in. So he's on the board's Minority Student Achievement Committee, and he showed up. He followed up and showed up. So thank you. So my why is, so this guy, that little guy here, he's 12 now, he's in 7th grade. I got into this whole deal back in, I guess it was 2015, and some of you know this, I'll try and be quick, my origin story. But I was a new parent, kindergarten parent at Wolf Trap, walking to school, excited because my whole career had been in public policy, U.S. Department of Ed, and I was like, now I finally get to be a public school parent. And about 2 months in, there was a budget cut announced, and I was like, oh, no, dang, I gotta get all public policy advocate on it. So I did, but I made other friends, PTA friends and parents, different political, views, and we got together and we filled rooms with people like you, and we advocated. And I've never since seen the Luther Jackson Middle School auditorium where the board meets. I've never seen it more full, ever. We had overflow, and that is my dream, is to overflow that again. And I think we were really effective, and we did get most of the money back. And so I sat through a lot of meetings, and I learned a lot about this complicated process in the county. And then the seat came open and I ran, and I earned the trust of the community. So my why is this. I feel like I can do my job best when I'm engaged with all of you. You know, there's really a wide parameter for how to be a school board member, and I choose to do it in a way that's with all of you. Because when you're engaged, I think that's when I'm gonna be able to elevate to the most successful thing. So that's my why, and this is my jam, this is my life's work. It's technically part-time, but it is my life's work. Okay, so what we're gonna do today, we're gonna be, and I'm not gonna talk the whole time, okay? We're gonna be empowered to advocate, be informed about who's making decisions for you, and then learn how to show up and speak up, which you already are doing, and then identify just one thing, right? Because there's so much we can do, just one thing. I find it's helpful to feeling like you're succeeding. Okay, so just so you know, and we're in Fairfax County, and there are these 9 magisterial districts, and we are in Hunter Mill. But it's like from, again, tradition, Her Majesty and like Lord Fairfax days, like that's where this stuff comes from. So they're political subdivisions. So we are in Hunter Mill, and there are 9 of them. And so this is generally Hunter Mill. So I represent the people who live here, each of us does. It's not where you go to school or not. Most Fairfax residents do not have children in school at any given time. So I represent the taxpayers, and the students who tend to go to the Madison Pyramid, the South Lakes Pyramid, the Westfield Pyramid in Chantilly, because I represent Western Herndon, plus little bits of Marshall, Oakton, and Herndon. And a little bit of Langley. I represent 1/9 of the TJ population. So again, where you live, that's who your representative is. But of course, I'm trying to look at the whole school division. So, and this is where I'll welcome our supervisor in just a moment. So, if you didn't grow up here like I didn't, the way schools are funded here is different than perhaps other places you've been. So, the local schools are funded through the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. And I have some data, some intro data up here, but I certainly welcome Mr. Walter Alcorn, who wants to come up and talk about his work in the community, because I'm his counterpart. He's the one with his colleagues, you know, 1 of 10, making decisions, but yeah, I'd love to allow him the chance, the opportunity to speak. Someone who also cares deeply about our community, for sure. So thank you, Mr. Alcorn.
Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, this is the motley group that I started with. Yeah, for those of you that are familiar with the way Virginia is structured, in county governments, there is typically a board of supervisors or a board that's the governing body. We don't have a mayor, for example. There's not a town council. It's considered a quote-unquote strong board. So we hire the county executive, and so we exercise legislative authority, but we also hire the executive authority. So it's considered a strong board. As Melanie mentioned, most of Fairfax County Public Schools come from local taxes. That's also part of our job, as we set tax rates for real estate, personal property tax, and the very small handful of other taxing authorities that we have and have been given by the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's a little different in other parts of the state. In other parts of the state, the Commonwealth actually picks up the majority of the costs of running the school system, but because of the way the funding formula is set up in Virginia, it's the local government. So in effect, it's your property taxes that are paying for schools. At least about half of the schools come just from your property taxes alone. So I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not the reason you came, but I do very much appreciate Melanie, you hosting this. And is there a question I can answer?
I'm going to talk about the funding of the other services that the county funds that we all enjoy.
Oh yeah, great point. So schools are the #1 receive the funding that we raise on the Board of Supervisors. We also pay for fire, for police. We pay for social services like mental health services through the Community Services Board, libraries, and we also fund affordable housing. That's an increasing priority for us on the Board of Supervisors, and an assortment of other like local things. Some of the things that we do are paid for out of your fees. So for example, if you have Fairfax sewer system service, then that's paid for out of sewer fees. That's also under the Board of Supervisors, but it doesn't show up out of your real estate tax rates. So anyway, I could go on and on, but
We could go on and on about this stuff.
about this. But education is our top priority. I know it's something Melanie and I both and others this board and the school board have been working to try to get more funding from the Commonwealth. That continues to be a long-term challenge. And frankly, one of the other challenges is our tax base has been pretty flat. Our commercial tax base has not been increasing, it's been flat the last few years, really since the pandemic. But that's not true of residential properties. So those of you that own homes, you know this, your property's increasing in value and you're paying more in real estate taxes than you have been. So that's something that's very much on my mind as well. But again, number one priority is education, and happy to do everything I can to support our schools. So thank you.
Wow, this is cool. I mean, this is really cool. And when I say students, students are all very focused on the federal, and certainly a lot of us have been focused on it, but like, look at how accessible we are. It's so easy to talk to us and listen to us and engage, so, if anything, just, now you know who these people are. Okay, so the school board, so we are 12 members, one for each magisterial district plus 3 at large, so each of you you have 4 school board representatives, a third of the board. So I'm the local for those of you in the 100 mile district, and then the other 3 are supposed to have that county-wide look. So like the supervisors, it's a 4-year term, there are no term limits. Our executive is the superintendent, Dr. Michelle Reed. We approve our budget from what the county transfers to us. That includes, we're going to admit it, that includes mostly local money with a little bit of state and a little bit of federal. We steward $8.7 billion in public facility assets. We're sitting in one right now, and we're going to talk about that more later. We adopt policy that runs the board, but we do not have taxing authority. So like where I grew up in New York, the board set the tax rate, and you voted the budget, or you voted the budget up or down. And the challenge with that is that's where you get a lot of inequity, right? Because if more affluent counties voted up or down, right? But so in Fairfax, it actually gets spread out, which is, I think, a benefit. So we have, you might have heard we had an election yesterday, because we vote every year in Virginia. There's no off year. Please remember that every single year we vote. Some of you might have voted 4 times this year, and some of you might vote 1 more time before the new year. Does anyone know for what? What 1 more election is happening in Fairfax this year? Supervisor for Braddock. Okay, yeah. So one of the our Congressman Walkinshaw came from the Braddock magisterial district, so that seat is open. But the governor is responsible for presenting the state budget, appointing that head of instruction in the state. There is an appointed board of education. We have very little federal grants. Traditionally, only 7% of any school division's fund comes from the federal government, and that stat really hasn't changed since I worked there at the U.S. Department of Ed, starting in 2002. So that is sad. Veto authority, steals party, and it is steals policy, and it is a partisan role. So the Virginia General Assembly, so think like Congress, But again, I don't know that everyone understands this makeup and how important this body is, right? So each of us have a delegate. They all were on the ballot yesterday, all 100 of them, 2-year terms. And then there are senators. It's 6 years, right? 4 years. 4 years, I forget. 4 years for Senate. And so that is separate from these magisterial districts. That's like a whole other thing. So actually, and we do have a code coming up where you can look up your specific representatives. But so this is, I look to point at this picture, this is Delegate Carrie Delaney. We met when our babies were 6 months old at a mom's outing. Before either of us even were looking at, no chance, like not thinking about running for office. And now she's a multi-term delegate. We've got our local delegate, Karen Gistomara and Jennifer Boysko. That's one of our community center leaders. And Delegate Holly Seabold, Senator Salim. This was, I think at Vienna Elementary, members take your legislative school month. So this Friday, I'll actually be at Cunningham Park Elementary with Delegate Holly Seabold, taking Senator Boysko over to Terracet and Dogwood. So part of my job is to engage with these people, let them know what we need. And they are real champions for us. We really have great leadership, and that's a part-time job. I think they get paid $17,000, and they're in session all of January and February, and work all the rest of the time. Old systems, right? Old systems designed for certain people. Okay, so the House of Delegates, it's complicated. They have a short session, a long session. This is like a 60-day session. But what you want to know as an advocate is, now is the time to talk to state electeds about what you want them to do. Because once they go into session, it's bananas, and it's hard to get a hold of them. And they're also pre-filing bills right now. Like, you could write legislation, and Delegate Irene Shin is great about this, helping the public develop legislation to submit it. So don't wait. Same with budget, like now is also the time you could say, okay, I want this budget amendment in the state budget. It's right now. So, good to know. All right, so yeah, if you want to look up your representatives, and this is our new Congressman James Walkinshaw, but this is a great link that the county provides. Once you put it in, you put in your address, and if you scroll down to the left, it'll show you down to my level, which is the lowest one that doesn't show up on the other websites. Other general websites that show you your representatives do not go down this far. I think that's a big problem, because look at all the decisions we're making with your money, right? Like, you want to know who we are. So you can find out who that is. Okay. All right, how are we doing? A lot of talking. We're good? A lot of information? Okay. Maybe the top. Okay, 7:30. Wow, we're cruising. Okay. Okay, so something really transformational came out in the public 2 years ago. It's called this JLARC study. So JLARC is like the GAO for any of you in the federal government, right? It's the research arm of the General Assembly, the Joint Legislator Research Council. And so some legislators years ago said, hey, how well is our funding formulas and the way we calculate education, how well is that actually funding our schools? And a surprise to no one who is working in public education, we are chronically underfunded. The formulas are old, they're not based on inflation changing, and they greatly disadvantage Fairfax County. There's a lot of reasons why, but we are not the county that we used to be. We have 66,000 children who receive free and reduced meals, which is a proxy for poverty. 66,000, that's like, if you've ever been to a concert in the Eagle Bank Arena, 6 times full, plus. And those formulas still give us money as if we did not have that population. So, what this is showing is that, so this data report was really transformational because it was irrefutable that we are being chronically underfunded, and the state constitution guarantees that there will be funding for local schools, okay? So who's paying for it? We are paying for it. This one really makes me embarrassed. So of a national average of state funding per student, Kentucky is spending more than us, West Virginia is spending more than us. We are 14% below what states on average spend, okay? So when we look at it per pupil, I mean, $20,000 to educate a student. I mean, that's a bargain today, right? If you're paying for college, $20,000 to educate a kiddo. But we are not. We've got Arlington, and some of these, we printed out some copies of these in case it's harder to see up here, just to share. And I certainly can make these available electronically, but in case you want to look at them close up. But, you know, $21,000, and we see Arlington's at 25, Falls Church City's at 23, okay? That's how much it takes to provide excellent education in Fairfax County. So what does this mean for us? It means that we spend 117% more than what the state calculates that it takes to educate a child in Fairfax County. So if the formulas could be changed, we would each see $1,000 less in our property taxes. Because you know what, we care so much about our schools that not only are we making up the difference to get to that average, we don't want to be average, we want to be above average. So this is what we're owed from the state constitution, $500 million. $500 million. That's just to be average. We add another $500 million. So we are paying for 1/4 of our education that should be coming from state tax dollars. So what I'd like to plan out there is, we do all sorts of fundraisers, right? Boosters, fundraisers, so much stuff. The biggest fundraiser we could possibly do is to raise that money. And we raise that money by going to the state. Think of what we could do with $1 billion. We're already pretty darn good. So just breaking this down a little bit more, as Mr. Alford said, the county transfer. Most of that is paying for our students' education, employing 25,000 full-time staff. Okay, the state is at 19%. In other parts of the state, that is flipped. And I know some of us are cool with single payer, like we don't mind if a little bit of our money goes to the state, that's fine. But we're not being taken care of. So chronic underfunding, it's gotta be solved at the state level. So this annual battle that happens locally with the budget and the county budget and the school budget, yeah, that, we could smooth that out a little bit more. But until we get this flow of cash, and we can always be more efficient, and I'm actually on this committee on facilities to look at budget efficiencies for facilities, but wait to see the facilities data, it's not much better, right? There's a need for money. There just is. There's not enough efficiencies to get to change this. Okay, let's take a little break. Bio break, if you need it, is out there, or we can start with a few questions, or you can chat among your neighbors, but I just want to give us time to engage, because I don't have all the answers either, so. All right, so we'll reconvene at 7:40, okay?